Deacon Charles, it is my honor on behalf of all in the diocese to give you thanks for your many years of servant leadership to us across our diocese in many different ways. I'm going to share with members who may be in their Minster gatherings or Zooming to this convention from afar. I want to tell you just a little bit about the work of our recent Archdeacon. I use the analogy of the Tallgrass Prairie, which Charles and I are both very committed to and fond of. He has been involved in the Kanza Prairie near Manhattan. When you look at the Tallgrass Prairie out a window, except maybe right now in like late September or October, looks a bit monochromatic. But when you go into it, it is full of diversity, full of life. There are over 500 plant species in a prairie, and that can be in a prairie, and much of what's going on is underground in these deep, deep roots. For me, Charles Pearce is a bit like prairie because he's usually unassuming. He thinks before he speaks, and yet he has deep roots in his spirituality that bear diverse gifts and fruit. And for this, we give him thanks. A bit about him. Charles Pearce was ordained to the diaconate in 2000 and was appointed archdeacon by Bishop Dean Wolfe in 2007. He has retired this year in 2020 as archdeacon, and that is why we want to celebrate him at this convention. He served the western half of the diocese as archdeacon and was the archdeacon for diaconal formation and education. And he was deacon at St. Paul's, Manhattan for many years. He has served as an on-call part-time hospital chaplain. He is trained in grief and bereaving ministry. He holds a PhD in communication from the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, and is currently Emeritus Professor of Mass Communications at Kansas State University. He retired there in 2012. At that time, he was Associate Director for Undergraduate Education, and that ended a 26-year career at the A.Q. Miller School of Journalism. Pearce was an agent of change in the school, bringing digital technology to an analog world. Charles was able to bring his knowledge and years of experience as an educator to first the Kansas School for Ministry and then the Bishop Kemper School for Ministry. He taught at KSM, is my understanding, and then he was really a founding member of what became Bishop Kemper School for Ministry, serving on its board for many years. How many years, Charles? Do you know?
Ever how long the school's been in existence? So, what, 8 years, something like that? Yeah.
Okay, so from the very beginning, just until this year, Charles has been on that board helping to guide what is such an important part of our diocese that has brought great vitality that I have seen this year, especially in the time of the pandemic, how well our parishes are doing with clergy, both seminary trained and those from BKSM. So Dean Compiere has written a little bit. So Charles took part in all the discussions, again, leading to the start of BKSM. He has always been the colloquium, small group spiritual and communal formation facilitator for second-year students. He was a key player in the redesign of the diaconal curriculum. He has always taught Diaconia 1. He has made many praxis presentations on subjects like the emerging role of deacons and on hospital visits. And Don says, we are all immensely grateful for Charles's many contributions to BKSM. And Mother Casey Rollader, who was co-chair of the search for the 10th Bishop of Kansas, adds this: Charles served as a vital member of the search committee for the 10th bishop, with his most visible contribution being the layout, design, and editing of the diocesan profile, for which I am eternally grateful. And I too am eternally grateful because along with a call from Father Gardimo asking me to prayerfully consider this opportunity, it was that beautiful document and its content that moved me to apply for this position, to fall in love with the people of the Diocese of Kansas, and open myself to God's call to perhaps be your next bishop. So Charles, thank you. I wanted to give you a chance to say anything that you might want to, and then pray just a piece of a prairie liturgy that has come my way as a final prayer for us. But what would you like to say to the diocese?
Well, one thing I want to say is that diocesan profile wouldn't have looked nearly as good or sounded as good if it weren't for the eagle eye editing of Melody. She went through that thing with a fine-tooth comb and caught lots of things that would have been, boner mistakes if she hadn't gotten them. But I appreciate your words about it. I think it did turn out to be a nice-looking document, and the content was a product of a bunch of people. There were I think 6 of us working on that. So I think it turned out well. I guess listening to what you were saying about my career in the diaconate, I think the thing that I'm probably, I don't want to say proud, but that brings me joy is the thought that going from KSM to BKSM really was the vision of Jim Upton. He didn't know about a BKSM, of course, but Jim Upton preceded me as archdeacon. When Bishop Wolf called me and asked me if I would be archdeacon, I said, Bishop, I just don't think I can fill Jim's shoes. And he says, well, I'm not asking you to be Jim, but bring your own gifts and talents to this. So I agreed to do it. But Jim Upton, I remember outside of KSM classes and at our oversight committee meetings, he had this grand idea of incorporating the dioceses around us, bringing them together, and bringing ministerial education to as many as we could. It turned out that's exactly what happened, which I think is why it's great that Upton Hall is named after him. I often, when I teach the Diaconio class, I quote Jim frequently because he was a mentor to me and a friend. And so all of my ministry as archdeacon has been modeled after him, and I couldn't have asked for a better one. Anything that any accolades that I receive really are just reflections of Jim Upton.
Well, bless you for your part in what is a very strong part of our identity in the diocese, having served only in 2 other dioceses, but the strength of the diaconate here. We do give thanks to Jim Upton, to Susie Drury, who have been archdeacons, to your other half of the dynamic duo who continues in Archdeacon Monty Giddings. And now I thank you for handing on the baton so gracefully in advising me about who might be the next archdeacon, and giving that to Anne Flynn to bring her own particular gifts around social ministry and pastoral care of deacons into our mix. So thank you, Charles, for all that you have given the diocese. So we have wells of affection for you.
Well, thank
The
you,
Lord
Bishop,
be with you.
and also with you.
Let us pray. God, our Creator, we always remember to thank you, our root and source of life. For you brought light and life into the world. You made the wind your messenger, and you commanded the sun. You have created the little blue stem and the blazing star. You made the monarch and the bald eagle. You made us to live upon the earth as neighbors to all living things. You yourself lived upon the earth as your Son, Jesus Christ, who by becoming one of us showed us the way of love. He is for us like the roots of your prairie grasses, deeply dug into the earth to be our foundation and our anchor. For all these gifts and for the gifts we've received in the ministry of our Charles Pearce, we give you thanks this day. Amen.
Amen.